and welcome to the Talkcast Podshow, the #1 show on the internet, and the protectors of the Baby Yoda. I am the droid you're looking for, your host, Lanipator, and I'm joined this week by everybody's favorite bounty hunter, KaiserNeko.
Hello.
And Jedi scum, the one, the only, Martin LittleKuriboh Billany. How's it going, Martin?
Hello there. It's good to see you guys. Out here, you guys.
Yeah, good to see your voice moving on a little wave thing on my desktop here. It's wonderful having you here, Martin.
I'm giving you a wave.
Aw, yeah.
Oh, I get it. I got it. Get a wave.
Oh, so, how's everybody's, past 24 hours been? It's been going good? Everybody doing great?
I'm really glad that there's nothing important going on right now.
Yeah, absolutely. There's nothing I want to talk about more than Star Wars right now.
Yep, I definitely didn't watch this episode in the middle of the night while drunk from anxiety. So,
well, I am happy that it's back because I do love The Mandalorian.
I mean, who doesn't love The Mandalorian?
Seriously, I said this like the last time we talked about it, but it's the best thing to come out of Star Wars since the mid to later episodes of the Clone Wars.
It is hard. I don't think I've met a single Star Wars fan who hasn't either liked it or loved it. It's rare to find that with Star Wars materials, certainly post, I want to say maybe Empire Strikes Back, where there hasn't been something enormously polarizing about a Star Wars release.
Yeah, in fact, one of the people I wanted to have on this Talkcast was Stefan, who's kind of even above me, TeamFourStar's resident Star Wars buff. But The Rise of Skywalker really killed Star Wars for him, so he just hasn't been able to get into anything Star Wars.
Oh.
A movie so bad, it made him unable to return to Star Wars for a while.
I gotta say, I'm shocked by the sheer number of people I personally know who think that was the best of the sequel trilogy. I genuinely am stunned by it because I love Star Wars in general. I love all those movies, even the ones I hate. I love them. They're very important to me. They're a part of my childhood. I love revisiting that world. Even the parts of it that I don't necessarily enjoy as a piece of media, I love that world and I love every aspect of it. The Rise of Skywalker, I was cringing through most of that movie, and I felt like a lot of it is because it was a retreading of a lot of old stuff, and not in a fun way the way The Force Awakens was. It was just it felt like reanimating a corpse of a lot of the best parts of Star Wars that just didn't feel as fulfilling to me as a result. And I think what a lot of people do, and I know this isn't about The Rise of Skywalker, but I feel like what a lot of people love about that movie is just that it was safe. It did crazy things within the world of Star Wars. The moment they introduced light speed skipping, I was I think I'm checking out of this movie already because it just was going a little too far with a concept that was already it was already an out there idea, and now you're introducing a really wacky version of it. And so I personally was turned off by that.
It's like, hey, if you can do this, why didn't you do that in The Last Jedi, where it would have been really useful?
But I hear people defend it by saying it's the rule of cool. If it's cool, you can get away with it. And I feel like The Mandalorian doesn't necessarily lean into that as much. The Mandalorian is very much, if this is a cool Star Wars idea, we're going to do that. But we're not just going to throw the Star Wars book out the window for the sake of doing cool things.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest benefits to having Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau on board, who are obviously big Star Wars marks. They're playing to the crowd that loves the lore, like you and myself, Martin, who just love the universe and everything in it. So they'll sprinkle in little ideas of things that you could probably look up on Wikipedia, and a lot of people probably have, and try to even stay faithful to that. For example, and spoilers, by the way, for episode 1 of season 2. If you haven't seen it by now, please go do. It's a lot of fun. I don't think this is a huge spoiler, as this is very much a serial epic, and everything's very like adventure of the week, especially when you're starting out. But this is the first time outside of a video game that we've got an interpretation of a crate dragon in visual media.
That's right. It showed up in Star Wars Galaxies, and I believe it was a wandering boss mob that could come near your player city, and it would cause the whole area around it to shake. Like the screen would vibrate, and the various objects would just move as it went past, and it was quite an impressive sight. And then, of course, in Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, there was a mission, I believe it was in the first one, shortly after you get HK-47, you had to confront and defeat a crate dragon.
Yeah, that one looked definitely more dragon-like than this one. I do like the design they came up with for this. It was very Tremors.
Yeah.
Tremors crossed with like the Dune worm, but it worked.
Dragon worm. Because that's
sure
what
that's
it
a
is.
Yu-Gi-Oh
It's a
card.
dragon worm. It's a goddamn dragon with a worm body.
And they did a really good job of giving you its sense of scale. I feel like it shifted its size a little bit throughout the episode. Like sometimes it would look way bigger, sometimes it would look a bit smaller.
Like when it first goes through the city, it fills a street. And then in certain shots, it's like a behemoth, you know?
Yeah, like it's bigger than the mountain it just crashed out of. It's like, what the
I do love that scene where they're like, wait, that's too big. They say it's to scale. Oh no.
Well, I'm gonna say I had issues with that because that character, he goes on about all his experiences on Tatooine. He's dealt with the sand people. He's dealt with Jawas and everything. If he doesn't know how big a crate dragon is, it's kind of weird.
He even says like he's only ever seen the head and neck. He did not. Apparently, he didn't know a lot about how to get close to it, what its habits are, because he's always been at that city. Him not knowing enough about it to know how actually big it is, that doesn't necessarily bother me.
It doesn't bother me that much either. I just, in that moment, I was like, oh, you're more of a noob than you let on. What, Cobb is his name?
Yeah, Cobb Vanth, Timothy Oliphant's character.
Pulled out of the Aftermath series.
Mm-hmm. By the way, am I the only person who thought the moment he saw him was like, wait a second, is that Chris Hemsworth? No, it's not.
No,
but
I definitely did not think that. I'm like, this he's not buff enough to be Chris Hemsworth.
No, and that was the thing that actually threw me off because I saw his face and I'm like, that looks a lot like Ragnarok Thor. But very quickly, it's like, okay, that's not him. But
yeah, we start off the episode with Mando walking around looking for information on how to find other Mandalorians because apparently they can help him find Yoda's like Baby Yoda's race. You know, it's like, okay, sure, we'll just keep going with that. And they say like, oh, there's one on Tatooine. So instantly in your brain, you're like, aha, there is one Mandalorian we knew that was on Tatooine at a certain point. So instantly your mind jumps to Boba Fett, and you go to this derelict like mining town at the edge of basically at the edge of everything. What was it? Moss something?
Tesla, something. I forget. I do want to give kudos to the Gamorrean wrestling match that we saw earlier in the episode, though.
That was weird.
Gamorrean went through a table.
By God, he hit him with the vibro wax.
I do love that in every depiction of Star Wars, in every depiction of the Gamorreans, they're always using the vibro axe. They don't have any other weapon, apparently.
No, why couldn't the Gamorreans just have been wrestling?
Yeah.
And like were they wearing shield generators? Because every time they like struck, there was like that wow.
Yeah, I don't know if that was meant to be like a vibro effect, because obviously one thing that the Mandalorian in general has done very well is introduce vibro blades to people who haven't really seen that, because that's been a thing in Star Wars for decades and decades.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like, well, in KOTOR, it's Baby's first lightsaber, where the blade is made out of a special material and it vibrates at such a speed that it can basically cut through steel and other things, as long as you're not attacking another vibro weapon, I guess.
And I loved the introduction. That my favorite episode of The Mandalorian was episode 2 of season 1, where the first 20 minutes are just silent. Just watching Mando and Baby Yoda go through the desert together, it felt very Man with No Name. I do think that the strength of The Mandalorian is in its comparison and its contrasting to Star Wars as a movie, which is very Flash Gordon, and then Mandalorian is sort of like The Man with No Name. It's a Western. He goes into town, sees a problem, deals with it, leaves. And I do like the escape from the high fantasy and the high soap opera, the galactic space opera of Star Wars.
Yeah, part of that has to do with the
Sorry, I was going to say, when they decided to focus on a bounty hunter for the show, it's like, what makes sense? What makes sense to ape? And of course, Western or samurai films, which most Westerns are based off of. So The Mandalorian is very wolf and cub. Like that is basically the entire trope of the show. Which, if you haven't seen any of those samurai serials, they're pretty fun. You were going to say, Kaiser?
I was largely just going to say that when you remove the Jedi from the picture and you put your characters very much on the ground level, there are a couple of different directions you can go, especially in post-Republic universe. But my favorite, I feel like there are two types of Star Wars fans that I've encountered in my time. It's the people who three types. One are the people who love everything Star Wars, and they're like, yeah, Mandalorian's good, but so is the idea of the prequels, or maybe even love the prequels themselves. Like, there's a lot to love in Star Wars, and if you're into the universe as a whole, good, that's great. Like, you can just love all of it. But the two others I've met are the people who are like, no, I love the sci-fi side of Star Wars, which plays heavily here. We see there's a lot of actual sci-fi happening, just with a twist, that Western twist, and that's great. I dig on this, and they've kind of they put the mysticism squarely on Baby Yoda's shoulders, like that he's the only character in this who's going to have any involvement with that.
And it's used so sparingly.
Yeah. And then you have the people who are all about fucking lightsaber fights and Jedi powers and shit like that, which I'm kind of done with, honestly. I'm glad to take a break from that. Clone Wars had a lot of that. Clone Wars is one of the best things to come out of Star Wars, especially its middle and later seasons. But Mandalorian is a very different take on it, and I love both of them because they just tackle those different elements of Star Wars so goddamn well.
Yeah, and having actual oversight with Star Wars, I think, is helping a little bit. Where it's like, okay, this. Let's actually focus on what we want to do with this universe, rather than, I don't know, give it to two different directors to make three different movies and just let them have at it.
It is interesting to note that the introduction of Cobb, specifically his initial introduction, where you think it might be Boba Fett for like a moment, when he stood in the doorway,
and then he talks.
Yeah, I think it's something I've been excited to see for a long time as a fan of both the old expanded universe and also the new expanded universe that they've created through books, comics, games, being all united in a single canon, very intentionally. And I feel that moment was a great payoff to information that had been planted in the Aftermath books, because the first time, the first and, as far as I'm aware, only time the new expanded universe has tried to tell you what happened to Boba Fett post Return of the Jedi was it mentioned Cobb finding the armor. It mentioned Cobb finding the armor on the Sandcrawler in the first Aftermath book. So I was like, that's going to be interesting to track what happened there, because not only does it suggest somebody else has Boba Fett's armor, it suggests that something happened to Boba Fett and we're not quite sure what it is. And obviously Mandalorian's going to be exploring a lot of that. But that moment where he was standing in the door, as a reader, as somebody who had experienced the new expanded universe, watching that, I immediately knew that's got to be the guy who found the armor, and it was. And so as a casual viewer, you don't know that. You're going in blind. It still works just fine. But as a fan of the expanded universe, and of course the old expanded universe, the implications and the way it paid off were really exciting for me.
I honestly, when I saw that, I thought, that's Boba Fett's armor, right?
Yes.
Right? I was looking around at nobody at all because I was alone, but I'm like, right? I couldn't tell. I on my memory with this sort of stuff is so bad, but I was like, that really looks like Boba Fett's armor. In fact, you saying that it's Boba Fett's armor is the first time I've actually gotten confirmation.
Oh yeah.
It's absolutely Boba Fett's armor. You can tell how like old and worn it is, and the fact that the coloring is just kind of slightly there, but definitely sun bleached and washed out.
Yeah, and
it looks like an older version of Mando's getup, especially the rocket pack on his back, which I guess refills itself.
I guess so.
Either that, or he just happens to have access to those very specific rockets. But yeah, so Cobb shows up wearing Boba Fett's gear, and Mando's like, "Hey, I'm gonna need that back. That's for my people. That's mine. Give it." And that's where we get introduced to the crate dragon, which graploids its way in and just chomps down on a bantha.
It's a brilliant image.
Yeah, no, that was. I'm not a huge I won't lie. The sandworm concept is one of those things where I've seen it done so many times that I'm kind of bored by the concept. But I do have to admit the design is really cool, and I do like the inclusion, the use of the oh god, what are those guys called? The sand people,
Tusken Raiders.
The Tusken Raiders. Like their involvement in this story was one very nostalgic, and two just very effectively used. I thought that was really cool.
Clarify something for me, Lanny. The bartender, what race is he?
The bartender at the cantina in. Yeah. I'm trying to remember.
Because I was under the impression, because I've seen those aliens before, and I don't think I've ever looked into it for confirmation, but I'm pretty sure he's a Tusken Raider that isn't wearing his stuff, right?
I don't think so, because I feel like I've seen that race before as well. They're on the kind of leathered skin with like the bumpy bone-like protrusions.
They're on like Jabba's skiff and stuff, and I for some reason in my head, because I saw them in Jedi.
I'm pretty sure it's a Weequay.
A Weequay, okay.
Yeah, I have never seen a Tusken Raider without the mask.
I don't think you will either. I'm pretty sure that's just how they are. Well, I think in the comics you do.
The exploration of the Tusken Raider society is always kind of here and there within the Star Wars lore, and I feel like it gets kind of mixed and muddled sometimes. But I've always found them interesting because they work both as a friend and as a foe, depending on what kind of story you're trying to tell. And here they're very much friends.
They're not friends or foes, they're animals!
See, I find that, I hate to go on another tangent, but I'm fascinated by the way the Anakin Tusken Raider stuff plays out, because in the original draft of Phantom Menace, there's a whole subplot where Anakin takes, I think his pod racer to the Tusken Raiders, or he's going out to retrieve the parts, and he finds a wounded Tusken Raider, and he heals it, and he lets it go back to its people, and it's like, oh wow, baby Anakin made this bond with a Tusken Raider, this creature that is considered this wild, dangerous thing living out there in the wilderness. And then in the second movie, he comes and he murders them all. And I thought that if they included that little arc about him helping the Tuskens and then choosing to murder them, it would make it much more interesting.
Yeah.
But it also suggests that, to me, it suggests that the Tusken Raiders are very misunderstood. And this episode of Mandalorian seems to justify that idea because they are very friendly if they need to be.
Yeah, and we got to see a lot of growth in Mando, like a lot of that season 1 growth that he had, where he doesn't just jump to shoot first, ask questions later. You see him communicating with the Tusken Raiders. He knows their language, I guess, or at the very least knows how to communicate with them non-verbally. And even when their little sand wolves show up, he doesn't immediately jump to attacking them like Cobb was about to. He's like, nope, hold on, I got this, because in season 1 he learned all about. I guess he's special. I guess he's spec'd in animal handling, and now he's pretty good at that. He's like, oh no, these things are trained. Hold on, I bet I can get these things to chill out.
Yeah, that does show a lot of development for him, because when he tried negotiating with the Jawas in season 1, he tried using his flamethrower in a very different way, and in this one he uses it to calm the situation.
Yeah. So you get to see that growth in Mando, which I love that, because no character should be static, especially between seasons.
Yeah.
And even early in the episode, when he lands at that spaceport with what's her name, Amy Sedaris, whoever her character is, and she's like, no, don't go to his ship. You know he doesn't like droids. He's like, nah, they're good because of everything that happened at the end. It's like, aw.
Look at that, some character development.
They're still probably gonna fuck some shit up for him, but look at him. He's not so. You can't really call it racist, but what? Anti-lifist? I don't know. Yeah, Taika Waititi's IG unit, never forget. So yeah, you get to see the growth of him as a character and trying to get these two groups to work together, which is a very Western trope. These two warring clans that you like, hey, come on, we need you guys to work together to deal with this bigger threat right now. So he gets these guys to work together to hunt down the Crate Dragon. And I don't know if this is like in the wiki somewhere or if this is actually explicitly stated, but the noise that the Crate Dragon makes is extremely reminiscent of the noise that Obi-Wan uses to scare off the Tusken Raiders in Episode 4.
Depending on the cut of Episode 4 you're watching.
Yeah, that's true. Where it's just going, whoa! But yeah, I like that little touch where it's like, you know what? That would be the reason that they'd be afraid.
That is cool. I didn't realize.
Just something I noticed while watching this. I'm like, that I don't understand why that thing makes that noise, but it sounds a lot like this, so that's probably why it makes that noise. And you get to see this great set piece with some one of the things this show does incredibly well is use industrial light and magic to its full extent when it comes to creating these big visual spectacles, and it is at its zenith in that Crate Dragon fight.
Yeah, it was really mind-blowing. It really made me very hopeful for what we could see in the future in this show, just because I feel like in season 1, they reused a lot of assets and creature designs from the movies, and, that works because obviously those things belong in Star Wars. But this is the first time we've gotten a good look at something like a Crate Dragon, which is, as we said, not outside of the games, something we just have no visual comprehension of, and it paid off well. It looks good. It looks like it belongs in the show, let alone Star Wars. And I wasn't looking at it thinking, well, that's a cheap effect. I was like, that's impressive.
Yeah. And you really get a feeling for like, yeah, how do you kill this thing? And I mean, the answer's obvious. Like as soon as it showed up and it's like, oh, it's got a leathered outside. I'm like, oh, so you're gonna blow it up from within?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's like, what else are you gonna do?
I do like the sheer number of thermal detonators that were used on that thing, little lobbing grenades.
Mm-hmm. And they made me really question Cobb's strategic value when he's just like, I'm gonna blow it when the thing's like nowhere near the charge. It's like, dude, really? You get one shot at this and you're no. Shut up, Cobb. I like you. Don't make me hate you. But yeah, they all work together, and eventually Mando's like, no, I gotta do this. And he gets it to, like, eat a bantha that has all of these mining charges, like basically just a billion sticks of thermal charges on it. And boom, blows it up, and he survives.
It works so well that it makes you wonder why they weren't thinking of that as the first plan.
I know, right? I'm like, why don't you do what they actually did in Tremors?
Yeah.
Just get them to eat the bomb. Right?
Yeah, like they demonstrated the Crate Dragon's behavior, like we saw it eat that bantha right at the beginning. Why waste Tusken Raider lives, innocent Tusken Raider lives on this thing?
Yeah, no, that's actually a valid point. I kept thinking to myself, wait a second. But if they could have just put the bombs on the bantha and put the bantha in the Crate Dragon and then blown it up, why didn't they do that from the start?
But then we wouldn't have had that awesome. Yeah, we wouldn't be able to see.
They need to have a set piece.
Yeah.
It's the same reason you never question why Cobb always has like an infinite amount of like rocket fuel and like rocket launchers, or like rockets for his rocket launcher. It's like that's the fantasy part of sci-fi fantasy. Like don't worry about it. Legolas always has an arrow in his quiver. We're gonna deal with this. Oh, and yeah, they think that blowing it up from its stomach will do the job, and we don't want to have to waste a bantha if we don't have to.
The bit where it was on top of the mountain and it was spewing, I guess, stomach acid at everyone. For some reason, I had a very strong visual connection. Have you been to downtown Disney in Florida?
I have.
There's a Stitch. There's like a Stitch little figure that's like standing on top of the big building.
The
and
toy store.
It's spitting on everybody. And that's all I could think of was it was a giant Star Wars version of Stitch doing that.
Just, I did love that as a defense mechanism for the creature, though. It's just like, okay, so yeah, it's really big. It can eat pretty much anything. And, oh, it spews acid. Wonderful. One
thing that's interesting that they bring up about the Krayt Dragon is they talk about it eating a Sarlacc or getting... taking a Sarlacc
that
pit.
was... Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure how I felt about that.
Yeah, I was interested by it because I feel like they're hinting at something, and we're going to talk more about it about the end of the episode, but I feel like they're hinting at something in regards to the fate of a certain character because of obviously what happened to him. Boba Fett, I'll just go ahead and say it. Boba Fett was in a Sarlacc pit, and something happened to the Sarlacc pit, and this Krayt Dragon is hanging around, and Boba Fett's armor is there. So, interesting.
It's the thing about that kind of ruffled my jimmies a little bit is, first of all, the way Sarlaccs work, they typically do exist kind of like as a predatory plant-like creature. They're basically planet parasites.
Yeah.
Where they burrow their body deep into the planet and they leave like their big open maw ready to consume anything that steps near it with their little tendrils. I don't think it would exist in a horizontal cave.
No.
And furthermore, while I do believe a Krayt Dragon could, like, get beneath the Sarlacc and just consume it from within, like, I don't have a problem with the Krayt Dragon consuming a Sarlacc. Why does Tatooine, a barren, desolate planet, have multiple Sarlaccs?
Good point. Yeah, because that is the Sarlacc pit. That's what they call it.
And I'm not certain if it like was transported in there to grow to just become a torture site, or if that Sarlacc grew naturally. I'm not entirely sure how Sarlaccs jump from planet to planet.
Well, if you've played Super Star Wars for the Super Nintendo, the Sarlacc can jump up out of that bloody hole and just start attacking you.
At all times. Just like the Wampa is like 700 feet tall and is basically a Mega Man boss.
It's obvious information.
Yeah. Just play Super Star Wars.
I can't remember, like, have we... I'm sure at some point we've seen the anatomy of a Sarlacc, right? Like the full thing?
The biggest interpretation we've gotten of a Sarlacc, I believe, was in Star Wars Force Unleashed, where an entire level takes place just on the face of a Sarlacc. And then the big boss fight takes place like inside the main pit of the Sarlacc. It's a really cool fight. Like, Star Wars Force Unleashed, still a gem of a game. The first one, the second one's awful. But as for the anatomy of a Sarlacc, yeah, it's basically a worm, a big fucking parasitic worm.
Yeah.
That consumes basically the nutrients of a planet.
It's always really fascinating to me, the kind of Eldritchian horror that can come out of a franchise like Star Wars. Something that comes off so family friendly in a lot of different places, but in different corners of the saga as a whole, you can just see these things that are nightmares, living fucking nightmares.
Solo is a fun little adventure. Then, like 2/3 of the way through, you got giant tentacle Cthulhu space monster.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And fucking Rogue One, you have the Bugullet.
Oh yeah, Bugullet.
Oh god, oh yeah.
Bugullet is basically just a fucking like mind flayer. It's like, gah.
Yeah, that's what it is.
It brings out your memories and like consumes your mind. It's like, no.
And those aren't even like Sith. Like, so the Sith have a pretty dark and disturbing like history within the galaxy, and there's something Lovecraftian about them, just the whole cult-like attitude toward the Force. But yeah, there's some weird stuff in Star Wars.
Yeah, they used to have, like, what were they, the Deshades that, like, literally eat Force users, and the sign of an amazing Sith Lord was to be able to, have command over one. I remember that because of Star Wars The Old Republic. But they they beat the crate dragon with I'm very thankful. Like Baby Yoda, basically just a prop this episode, basically just being there to be cute, and did not have like anything to do with that fight. Because if they had Baby Yoda interject to just like force grab that thing, I'd be like, no, fuck you. I buy the Mudhorn, but nah.
Yeah, I know. That is, unfortunately, that will continue to be one of those things that will always be in the pocket now. And that's why I love Baby Yoda. I love the fact that he can use the Force. That's all cool, but it is going to make the storytelling a little bit more difficult moving forward.
I will say, go on.
No, you go ahead.
I will say every time Baby Yoda shows up, and in fact, every time I start an episode of The Mandalorian, I say to myself, I'm not going to gush at Baby Yoda this time. He can just be in the background for all I care. And then every time they show him next to a vase, like checking it out, I'm like, oh, look at Baby Yoda.
Look at him. He's like, oh, look at him. He's so curious.
I'm not going to gush over Baby Yoda, Mandalorian. You dumb bitch.
He's just so cute, though. I mean, how could you not?
Yeah.
He's a sweet little meme baby.
He is a sweet little meme baby.
The most I think amazing part of Baby Yoda is the fact that we're never going to like really see him grow up. He might become a toddler. He may say his first words in the next, I don't know, 20 episodes. But he's like, his race is so long lived. Yoda lived to be like 1,000, like 900 years old, I think, when he died.
Yeah.
Okay, that touches on something that is existentially terrifying to me about these fantastical long-lived races. When I hear is like, oh, 100 years old, that's barely anything for me. That's like a child. And I'm like, wait, hold on a second. So are you telling me like the first 50 years of your life is spent like as a fucking toddler? Oh. Because that's horrible. That's, oh my God. But like, how does that work?
But you can tell there's an immense amount of intelligence behind its eyes. While it's obviously it doesn't have a lot of experience in the world, it is incredibly empathic and probably a lot smarter than it lets on. It's very curious. It's always trying out new things, and it's learning.
Yeah.
I'd never considered it, but now I'm gonna place a bet and say that Baby Yoda's first words, and probably the only words we hear him say in the show, are gonna be, "This is the way."
just start off full sentence.
Yeah.
Now I'm just reminded of that scene where Pikachu talks and Pikachu answers you.
It's because this is the way.
Oh my God.
But yeah, I was happy that this episode did not focus very heavily on the Baby Yoda. Just let him be like the side prop. Like, hey, this, Baby Yoda's basically the adorable MacGuffin of this show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, you're the reason this plot's moving forward.
He's the MacGuffin muffin.
Yeah, the little MacGuffin muffin.
Oh, I like it.
And you guys brought up Boba Fett a lot throughout this episode, but did you notice at the very end of the episode, it was in fact
Tamura Morrison.
Tamura Morrison, who played Jango Fett in Attack of the Clones.
That's right.
Essentially, Boba Fett was there at the end. Like that's who showed up.
That was him. Okay.
That was him?
Yes,
okay,
confirmed. Cool. Like it's not just heavily hinted. That was like, that's Boba Fett.
All right. Well,
and which, by the way, amazing, because Tamura Morrison, if I'm butchering that pronunciation, I'm sorry. But the fact that he's old enough to play the old Boba Fett is perfect.
It's great.
That is really cool.
That's all I wanted. As soon as they announced this show was happening, I was like, let me check the age. Oh my gosh, he could come back as Boba.
Yeah, of course. Watch something happen. It's like, no, he's just a lost clone trooper.
Apparently, in the credits of the episode, it lists him as Boba Fett.
Okay,
it's fascinating. Like, it's really exciting as a Star Wars fan to finally come to this point, because, of course, that's something people have theorized since Return of the Jedi came out. They were like, Boba Fett, he's so cool. He couldn't have died there. Of course not. Like, and then, of course, in the books, it was established, thermal detonator. He got out of the Sarlacc pit, but this is probably going to tell it in a very different way. And looking at him and the way he appears at the end of the episode, that doesn't seem like the classic Boba Fett that we all know. He looks like he's been living on Tatooine in the wilderness, doing his own thing a little bit. He's not looking like a Mandalorian. He's not looking like a bounty hunter necessarily.
Yeah, he's looking like he's taken to the, like he's decked out with Tusken Raider gear outside of the helmet.
It's interesting. I'm really curious to see not only what his story is, what his post Return of the Jedi 5 years or so have been, but I'm interested to see his relationship with Mando and how they come to blows, because I imagine we will see Boba versus Mando at some point through this show, but it also wouldn't surprise me if they teamed up.
Well, I think we get a lot of hints moving forward just by the names of the upcoming episodes.
I haven't looked.
Which are listed. Like the next one is called The Confrontation. The second one is the third one is called The Bounty. Fourth one is called The Republic. I'm not going to keep reading these
things. Yeah, I want to be surprised.
Yeah, I'm not going to keep reading them. I'm only going to read up to that. But so we get little hints about what's coming. But obviously the titles, like, just by calling this episode The Marshal, no way to know that there was a fucking crate dragon in it.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like they called it The Crate Dragon.
But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if they layered in that story about crate dragons devouring Sarlaccs and taking their nests specifically because they want to give Boba an out that isn't just he climbs out of the Sarlacc pit. I think we might see a little flashback where a crate dragon like tears into a Sarlacc and Boba like climbs his way out of its corpse or something.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna obviously we're gonna get some closure on that. I don't think we're leaving Tatooine just yet. So we're gonna hear a thing or two on that front, and obviously figure out how did he get out of there.
But it's exciting because like there have been so many interpretations and iterations of Boba Fett throughout Star Wars canon and non-canon, and I'm going to be bluntly honest and say for a long time in my life, I thought Boba Fett was the lamest thing. Like when I was like, I want to say 8 to 12, I thought Boba Fett was the coolest cool guy. And as soon as I hit 13, I was like, hang on, he got his ass handed to him by a blind Han Solo. And then he was like, whoa!
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait.
If we could have just like that obvious chat about Boba, he decided to fly into melee against a Jedi, got his blaster cut in half, and then got beat. They got he got smacked by a blind Han Solo with a stick, and his jetpack fucked up.
And even as a kid watching that, I was like, oh, the reason that happened is because this movie is more for kids and it's goofy, and that's Boba Fett's been affected by that. In Empire, he's a very cold, calculating bounty hunter who tracks down the lost mark that none of the other bounty hunters could get. He has his moments in those movies, and I feel like obviously the image of Boba Fett has been exaggerated throughout the years.
It's just the fact that he looks so fucking cool. It's the reason the Mandalorians all look that way, is because he's a fucking space Spartan.
Which is why I'm so excited by this interpretation of Boba Fett that we're seeing here at the end of the episode, because it has stripped him of that. It has stripped him of the look that makes him really cool, and they have a chance to reapproach this character and craft something interesting and exciting and unique, because even in Clone Wars, when you got young Boba Fett, Dave Filoni had the chance to reintroduce Boba Fett to an audience that had seen him both young and adult, and you didn't really have a full idea of who he was. And in Clone Wars, even then, he's kind of like, this is baby Boba Fett, and he's just being a kind of a teen, an angry teen who was mad that his dad's dead.
He got to do like a couple of cool things, like infiltrate like the clone,
the training program
academy.
Yeah. But that's about it. And I'm excited that Dave Filoni and to an extent Jon Favreau get to show us this character again with new eyes and get in a great TV show that obviously knows what it's doing for the most part, and maybe show him be a cool character.
Yeah, so because we're obviously we have to work with him, because the one thing I immediately thought of when I was like, you're going to Tatooine to find a Mandalorian, I'm like, oh, Boba Fett is going to be the first person to be able to tell him that's a fucking Jedi, because he's going to be the only one to have seen Yoda in the Clone Wars when his dad got decapitated.
Oh, damn.
I will never forget that scene.
Yeah, like lifts up the helmet. Like there was always a dark part in my heart that was like, I really hope the head just goes.
And you know about the edit they made to that whole sequence, right?
Oh, what did they do?
Well, they made a couple of changes, but in the I believe on the DVD release, at the very least, the change that they made was you see the shadow of his head falling in one direction when he gets his head sliced off. So the head falls out. But the other change is when Jango Fett gets trod on by, what was it? The horn What was it?
The Ronto.
Ronto, yeah. When he gets trampled on, his jetpack gets messed up, and they add sparks coming from the jetpack in the DVD version. So
he can't fly away from Mace.
So he would have gotten away if he hadn't been in that situation. So it kind of adds a little depth to that fight, which wasn't there before.
Yeah, where he just where once again a Fett decided to go blaster lightsaber with one of the well, at that point with legitimately the best swordsman in the galaxy. According to all reasoning anyway, or at least according to all resources.
Right.
Like that was supposed to be Mace Windu's thing, right? He was like the best at lightsaber training.
I mean, I don't think I've ever seen it said that he's the best, but the fact that he's second to only Yoda on the Jedi Council suggests, yeah, it's like he's like way up there. I think just beyond him would have been like Qui-Gon or something, but yeah. Anyway, sleeping on Ki-Adi-Mundi.
I never sleep on Ki-Adi-Mundi, okay, but there's a reason. Like he's just, you know, he's always in my heart. I love Ki-Adi-Mundi. I will always be a Ki-Adi-Mundi stan.
I only learned recently he had his own harem.
Yeah,
right,
because his race was so like endangered that he was one of those Jedis that was allowed to go out there and like fuck for the purpose of procreation.
Good for him.
Yeah, good on him. I mean, I guess he had enough. I think they even explored it in the Clone Wars a little bit, where he's just like, yeah, no, I'm able to separate that level of connection from who I am. I understand that when they die, they'll be one with the Force, and eventually I'll join them as well. So when they die, it's not a huge deal to me. Shame nobody ever really talked to Anakin about that.
So when I die, I will join them in our afterlife harem.
And we will watch my many children.
Not as we're doing it. That would be weird.
Yeah, of course. No, that'd be very odd. No, I always loved Ki-Adi-Mundi's design. Yeah.
He was one of those early characters where they were like, we're making this character and he's going to have his own books. He's going to be like a character that has his own like lore that we're really going all in. It was like him or a Singh. Like they were the sort of the Captain Phasma of the Phantom Menace, because it was like, look at this character. They're going to be a big deal. No, they're not, but we're going to act like they are.
He, like him, Kit Fisto, and like the only shine any of them ever got was in the Clone Wars cartoon. It's like, you know what, that's fine. I was gonna ask something, but Kaiser, you were gonna say something?
So I don't know how much. I think this was spoiled for you, Nick, and I'm not gonna actually say what it is. Just for anybody in the chat or anybody who's watching this who doesn't know, there's a cameo coming up that's gonna be really freaking cool, and man, I can't wait for it. Like when I heard about this cameo that's gonna happen, I first of all, it's really just amazing to see something from another piece of, like, as always, to see something from an unrelated piece of Star Wars make its way into something that is more modern and something so good. And especially this particular character.
Yeah, definitely a fan favorite character, big time.
Which is interesting, considering their origins.
Right?
I was sad to get that spoiled on me by you specifically, Kaiser, because I had not heard it anywhere else except from you.
To be completely honest, it was all over social media, so I really did.
I am very good at avoiding spoilers for shit that I don't want, unless somebody actually just blurts it out to me.
Well, I am sorry.
Well, you fucking should be. Anyway, that will be interesting, and another tie to Yoda's race. I'm also excited to see like Sasha Banks show up. I heard she's in this.
Really?
She's in the trailer, certainly.
Which again, I haven't watched any trailers for like any of this stuff coming, but I did see like a picture when Sasha posted on her either her Instagram or her Twitter's like, oh shit, awesome.
Sasha Banks, famous for saying on camera that her first crush as a kid was Yu-Gi-Oh! She used that exact phrasing. Her first crush was Yu-Gi-Oh!
All of Yu-Gi-Oh!
I mean, you know what they say about dudes with big hair.
Oh man, that's weird because that is an actual line from my upcoming episode.
Very good. I'm glad.
Awesome. But Martin, you've actually had a professional connection to Star Wars because you're the audio descriptor for the recent trilogy and movies around it, right?
Yes, everything film that came out from Force Awakens onwards, I got to do the official audio description for the visually impaired, which was a crazy experience for me because I had done maybe a foreign cartoon here and there, and I'd shown up in like a video game as like side voices, and I'm not going to say it's like the biggest gig in the world getting to do audio description, but it's a gig, and they kept me in the dark for a while when they brought me on. They called me. I was coming out of a therapist appointment, and they called me on the phone, and they were like, "Are you available? We need a British voice." And I was like, "Oh, sure." I just said yeah without thinking about it. I came home and I told Marin, my partner, I was like, They're bringing me on to do audio description for something. They need a British accent, and it's all top secret. They can't tell me what it is. And Marin immediately goes, "That's Star Wars, mate." And I'm like, "No, it's not." And
no way.
Yeah. And then I went in, and apparently, until I was actually sat at the desk and had filled in all the paperwork, they could tell me that I was doing audio description for Star Wars. And the reason they wanted a British voice is because they wanted it to play universally. They wanted the same audio description track for Europe and for America, and they wanted it to be appropriate. And in my head, I was like, "Oh, you want the Imperial accent. You want it to sound like someone from the Empire is telling you what's going on. Okay." But then, yeah, I sat down in the booth and I got to watch all of those Star Wars movies usually about 30 to 40 days before they came out in theaters. And I just described everything that was happening. The way, if you've ever switched over to like the second audio track on Netflix, you'll have like Luke rushes across the cockpit to get his, target reticule. I don't know. But they'll say little things to describe what's happening in between all the dialogue. And I got to do that for all of these new Star Wars films. And I've always loved Star Wars. So it was really incredible and humbling to be even adjacent to working on a Star Wars film. And now you can go on Disney Plus, and if you just go to I think it's audio track 4, you can hear me talk over all these movies. And it really was a delight. And it's been an honor to talk to a lot of people who've only been able to experience the new Star Wars movies through my voice and listening to it. And yeah, I don't know what else to say beyond it really is humbling and an honor to be in that role and to have done that.
I really highly recommend for anybody who wants to watch one of the films, if you want to watch all of them with the audio descriptor on, go ahead. But if you only want to watch one, my particular favorite is actually the one you did for Rogue One.
Oh yeah?
I laughed my ass off at that one. There's something about the way that things play out in that film and the way that you comment on it as it goes. It elevated that film for me, because I'm going to be really honest with you. I'm one of those weird people who actually thinks that film is underwhelming.
It is.
I think it's got really good parts.
The third act is amazing, but
yeah. But ultimately, I feel like they did a bad job about making me give a shit about any of those characters except for K2SO. Yeah. So yeah, honestly, if you can watch Rogue One with the audio description, it's pretty great.
Yeah, I remember on an international flight, I put on one of the I can't even remember which one I put on, but I'm like, oh, they have the audio description on for it. Awesome, read me to sleep, Martin. And I just let the movie play out that way. In terms of how that process goes, do they go beat by beat through the movie, or do they cut from different sections? It's oh, we're going to start here, then we're going to move here. Are you watching it as a puzzle being put together, or is it are you going through it kind of like you would a audiobook where it's just one chapter at a time?
It's definitely got elements of being a puzzle sort of put together. I do have the option of just letting the movie play and just recording when it comes to one of my lines. But for the sake of efficiency and time, I tended to skip between lines manually. Having said that, for a lot of it, considering it's Star Wars and there's a lot going on, most of it is description. There isn't really much in the way of parts, because I didn't really miss out on anything. I didn't really I was never thinking, well, what's going on now? How did these characters get here? I got the gist of everything.
Well, I mean, you're the one describing how they get there.
So yeah, I mean, so I'll read the whole text crawl at the beginning. I'll read that aloud as it's written, and then I'll usually describe the ships flying in, and then someone will have a line, and then I'll describe him turning to a different character and doing something else. It's very rare that I would have to miss out on big chunks of the movie. So I basically watched the movies as I was talking over them.
I have not been able to bring myself to go back and watch The Rise of Skywalker again. What was your delivery on "The Dead Speak"?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I should clip that because I honestly don't remember. That was the whole text scroll. I'm used to those text scrolls being cheesy. So when I saw "The Dead Speak," I was like, oh, okay, goofy text
Here we
scroll
fucking
nonsense.
go.
But yeah.
The Dead Speak in a Fortnite event.
I was very stunned that ended up being a thing, that it was a tie-in to a Fortnite event.
Yeah, that's the only place you get to see The Dead Speak.
Oh, here anyway.
Well, yeah. No, they showed him as like a fucking hologram and shit.
No, really?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, like they didn't tie that into a movie. It's just like, yeah, no, here you go, Fortnite. Here's Emperor Palpatine letting you know everything about it. And now you get to watch They Fly Now.
They fly now.
They fly now.
They fly now.
I kind of hope the audio description was, they are in fact flying now.
Oh gosh,
I hate that joke. I don't.
You don't hate it?
I don't. Like,
I mean, it's you know what?
It's fine. It's just it's one of those like overly hokey things. Just like, okay, yeah.
One of the most infuriating things about that film is how much chemistry those characters have together as a group, and it was wasted.
oh, right?
I know. It's so sad that that's like that movie is the first time we actually get Rey, Finn, and Poe together. Like that's the first time they're grouped together.
We
And it
could have
worked.
gotten that in fucking Last Jedi, but nope.
Yeah.
Not that I don't like, and again, I'm Mr. The Last Jedi is the best Star Wars film since the original trilogy, but even I am like, why? Please put these characters together. They work together so well.
And even the characters that are together at the beginning of The Last Jedi, they separate them. Like Poe and Finn aren't together for most of that movie, and they have such great chemistry.
Such great chemistry that a ship developed around them that one of the actors was even like, yeah, no, this is a good idea. We should run with this.
No, we have to give him a big case of the not gays.
Yep. Oh yeah. Made sure to give him that girlfriend possibility in that third film. I can't believe he once dated a Power Ranger. That's pretty cool.
I want one thing I do remember about recording the audio description for Rise of Skywalker, and this is probably going to come off sounding wrong, and I will preface this by saying I wasn't offended. I was just surprised when there is the same-sex kiss at the end of the film. I was recording the audio description with no knowledge that this was going to happen, and so as I said, they kiss passionately, I went like sort of like, they kiss passionately. So I was very surprised. I wasn't like bothered by it. I was just sort of like, this is happening. Okay.
I find it interesting that like, because it is just very much a background action that like you blink and you miss it even kind of thing, that they'd, you know, I guess I'm not that surprised with Disney's passive progressive tendencies, that they would want to put that in the description. It's odd to me, I guess, that they want to specifically focus on that when it's literally just everybody celebrating and being happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Star Wars, Martin, you're also a wrestling fan, so I think you can relate to this pretty heavily. Being a Star Wars fan is a lot like being a wrestling fan, where you just see all of this potential and you love everything about the product itself, but you can also see, like, what if they did this? What if this was just a little bit, you know, like, what if it's a lot of that?
Yeah, it's a very shallow series of movies with a very deep world. And it's frustrating to be playing in the puddles when there's an ocean right over there, you know? Like, we're always doing Skywalker stuff. Like, in the movies, everything ties back to Skywalkers and Palpatines and Organas. Everything's
That's
about
why
that.
I like the second.
What's
That's
that?
why I like Episode 8 so much.
Because they try to drive away from that, but it's like, no, go back.
Yeah.
It's not fair.
Despite the fact this movie made a decent amount of money, people didn't like it.
It's a real shame. It's a real shame.
It is. It is a real shame, but hey, I have a lot of hope for the future moving forward with Star Wars. And, now that we're out of the Skywalker saga, we have The Mandalorian. We'll see where everything goes, because I love The Mandalorian. And I want to see everywhere that this is going to go.
Definitely. And there's more shows coming out. We've got the Cassian and K2SO show coming out.
So, Kaiser, you get more chance to really feel that Rogue One love. Why? I'm so we know the fate of those characters. So
oh boy.
I guess I felt the same way when they were doing the young Han Solo movies. It's just why?
Yeah, that's the way I feel about young Nathan Drake. I'm like, why? But also, it could be good, but why?
But
my God.
At least that it's okay, you're getting a film adaptation. Just why not just make a young Indiana Jones, which is essentially what this fucking is.
Yeah.
But at least you're getting something new. They haven't done a pre-established group of movies here. Han Solo showed up and had his entire lifespan, important lifespan shown throughout the movies, and then it's why do we want to see him as a kid? I would have been happy with just a Donald Glover young Lando movie that Han happened to show up in.
Totally.
Because Donald Glover, wonderful young Lando.
I mean, look, I love Donald Glover. I kind of felt like he was. He
was doing an impression, but he was doing it so well that he made it.
I think. Okay, honestly, I think the outfit was the bigger issue. I think it was let him dress a little bit cooler than this, because they try to make it. No, this is exactly like a young Lando. It's I think he could have actually let him be more of his own thing, and he would have felt a little more natural.
He's peacocking. He's got the cape, he's got the cravat, he's dressing like Lando does. He's a charmer. That's just the way that that's Lando's style. And apparently he fucks a droid. So get over it.
Also, I don't know. I was very, very passive on Solo. There were actually some parts that I really liked, but I also kind of just felt like it was a film that didn't know what exactly it wanted to be, which it makes sense considering its troubled history.
Yeah,
it's bizarre because they try to introduce so many of these little plot drop elements. Oh, by the way, here's Darth Maul. Huh?
Is that going somewhere or
not anymore?
I guess we'll just finish that in the Clone Wars. Whatever.
Yeah. Fucking, oh my God. They thought that, I wonder if they thought that was the coolest drop. And now Darth Maul. I remember seeing that
as somebody who really enjoyed the Clone Wars, the fact that he was tied into the crime syndicate made a lot of sense. It's oh, okay, yeah, cool. He is still kind of their leader, kind of de facto.
I mean,
it would make sense that Palpatine would be pulling his strings to pull their strings.
Yeah, I mean, look, it just wasn't. Nothing. Okay, honestly, nothing about Star Wars in terms of the movies has excited me since The Last Jedi. But luckily, Mandalorian is still being really fucking good, so it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I didn't like Solo or Rogue One or Rise of Skywalker, because I've got good Star Wars and I can sustain myself off this. I can sustain myself off of it for, I don't know, maybe another season after this.
It is cool that we have more good Star Wars to look forward to. And honestly, It's not just The Mandalorian. I will say I think The Mandalorian is probably the strongest example of it. But there is other good Star Wars to look for and look forward to. I think the current run of Darth Vader, the comic by Greg Pak, is great.
Oh, I love it.
And I'm actually really digging the Dr. Aphra character in general in the comics. And the fact that she's gotten 2 runs has been really great. If you don't know the Dr. Aphra character, just think, what if Han Solo was an archaeologist and was evil, basically?
I've heard that those comics are. I've seen stuff from those comics. I can't believe how good. Just scenes I've seen cut out, divorced of everything else.
Vader's line. I know this one's years old by this point, but when he's I think it's in Vader Down, just we got you surrounded. Surrender. The only thing I'm surrounded by is fear and dead men. I'm just ooh. And then he ignites his lightsaber. And that's the last you see of it.
Somebody pointed out that that's a great line because you can hear it in both Darth Vader's voice and in Anakin Skywalker's voice. And I think that's very true. One more thing that you can look forward to is Lego Star Wars, the complete saga, which they are.
That's right.
They are re-releasing and completely redoing from the ground up.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, or like revoice, like putting in like all of the like the original trilogy didn't have, or actually I guess none of them had voice lines in them to begin with, but they've redone all of them and like revoiced them, reimagine them. It's like
early preview suggests it's going to be great. Even though I'm not a huge fan of adding the voices, I really loved the charm of the silent acting of the Lego characters. I really missed that. But everything I've heard about this new game, and I'm a huge fan of Lego Star Wars games, it sounds great.
The Lego games are just so charming and cute. I absolutely loved Lego Clone Wars.
Never played it, actually.
That was one of the more fun ones because like it had more of like a hub and spoke system where you could kind of go and do things as you wanted and not try to follow any specific plot.
More than anything, I just want to see Lego Rogue One, just because there would just be nothing but broken Lego bits at the very end.
Oh my god.
But how about you guys at home? What are you feeling? Are you enjoying Mandalorian so far this season? By the time this goes out, I think the second episode might be out. So what'd you think of that? At least up on YouTube, I should say. Let us know what you think. Always a good place in the comments for Rise of Skywalker, chat, just go for it. I'm sure that's completely healthy. Anything to get our minds off of what's happening in the real world. This has been the Talkcast Podshow. Thank you so much for joining us for this, Martin. You've been a pleasure to have.
Thanks, buddy.
It's been a pleasure to be had.
And Kaiser, I'll continue talking to you more later. Have a good night, everybody.
Later.
See you next time.
Take care.